What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Chernobyl. I'm your host, Samoa Joe. Kanye West, Frank Ocean, Kendrick Lamar, Travis Scott, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Bon Iver, Logic, Chance the Rapper, Jay Electronica, Vince Staples, Slow Tie, Moses Sumney, 10tricks Point Never. What do all of these artists have in common? They love James Blake.
But I listen to James Blake the most. That's like my favorite artist.
Now, mind the cryptic intro, but I'm unbiasedly spitting some facts. James Blake, in some way, shape, or form, worked with every single one of those artists I just mentioned. James Blake is an artist that finds his origins in a niche genre, but from sheer talent and skill, he finds mainstream success, even if those records aren't under his own name. But this video isn't a comprehensive guide to everything James Blake. Rather, much like my last big video, I know this artist has released many albums, but I'm going to focus on mainly one of his projects. A fantastic record that for some reason, my noodle brain fixated on intensely. His 2013 record, Overgrown. But we don't have to get into that until I'm like 2 minutes and 54 seconds into the video. So, let's start where all good stories begin. The beginning. I love that bit. James Blake Litherland is an English singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer from London. He found his footing in the musical world after releasing multiple singles and EPs, a single titled Air and Lack Thereof, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce that word, and the CMYK EP to be specific, catching the attention of some music blokes and getting some radio play for the song off of CMYK, Limit to Your Love, becoming Zane Lowe's hottest record in the world, and that song would come to be a track from his debut self-titled studio album being released in 2011. It would garner major critical acclaim, being nominated for the Mercury Prize, and getting him serious respect in the electronic field. But that's not what this video is titled. 2 years later, after hanging out with the man, the myth, the legend, Kanye West, and Justin Vernon of Bon Iver fame, he would announce his sophomore album and the topic of today's video. Overgrown. The first single of the album, Retrograde, being released on February 11th, with the announcement of the art and track list coming the 25th of that same month. Like how I mentioned before, my noodle brain likes to fixate on specific records, and it compels me to listen to a particular project. And I couldn't figure out why, but now I do know why. It fucking smacks. Even though I'm a self-admitted James Blake novice, I can appreciate the talent and sound design all over this album, discovering a new soul-like sound. And I think a lot of people agree with me, because every time I post a screenshot of me listening to this record on Instagram, follow that shit by the way, everyone DMs me, oh my god, underrated, which I would agree. Something about this eerie yet cheerful, minimal but full, warm but cold album was something that was bound to create a cult classic. So now I'm going to go with a fine-tooth comb and break this record down and share my feelings on the sounds and songs presented here. The album Overgrown opens with the track Overgrown. I know the album just fucking started, but I think this is my favorite track. The opening to this album is so beautifully cold, with these haunting, descending piano chords, as if James Blake had the photo shoot for the cover before making this song, and he thought to himself, let's make the title track sound like how this cover looks. Solace, seldom, haunting, and cold. Does that make any sense for this song, and the rest of the album for that matter? Cold? Whatever, fuck y'all, it makes sense to me. But the intro evolves into this even more cold as ice pulsing bass with subtle bell-like synths. This 5-minute pulsing bass track that blossoms into a beautiful synth string and pad piece is a perfect opener. Literally, out of every song here, I cannot picture a more perfect song to kick off this record. Next, we have the track I Am Sold. Something I noticed that would become a repeating characteristic throughout the record is how James Blake presents vocals. They aren't in this verse-chorus, verse-chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus structure. I see him approaching vocals much like he's sampling a cappella, whereas he finds a really catchy and beautiful line and repeats that, manipulating his voice, looping and stretching to create this found sound characteristic, while he, to my knowledge, has not sampled anything on this project. Well, sort of. I'll explain later. And the instrumental here has this softened, arpeggiated synth line with beautiful pads, reverbed hi-hats, and haunting background chords. I don't see this track being as strong as Overgrown, but that's a bit unfair. If you come out with all this fire in the beginning, it's gonna suffer a bit. But nonetheless, this track is a great listen for sure. Next, we have a song that is continuously in contention for being the top 3 pick for me off the record. Life Round Here. Blake presents the repeated vocal effect again, and these are some of the catchiest hooks on the entire record. The instrumental has this rising, buzzing synthesizer, having a very dubstep feel to this track, and along with James Blake mastering dubstep, he's also mastered the art of seamlessly incorporating trap and hip-hop drums to what is essentially future R&B songs. As a matter of fact, Mr. Blake had a hip-hop veteran on another version of this track, Life Round Here, featuring Kirsten Corley's husband, Chance the Rapper, not only respected in the electronic community and the R&B community, but the hip-hop community as well. But back to the song. With the lyrics being repeated, seem to paint this picture of a past romantic relationship, having them only be part-time love. And once there's friction, now we're back at square one. With the vocals matching the sounds presented here, and great sounds to boot, this track is in contention for one of my favorites off the record. And now we come to an anomaly in the track list. A featured song in the track, Take a Fall For Me, featuring RZA. Yes, that RZA. RZA easily steals the show on this track. His storytelling of a man who's been having a romantic relationship with a woman, but he wants more than just a physical relationship. He wants an emotional one, but she doesn't feel the same. Eventually going into the arms of another, possibly to be wed. And taking a backseat on this track, Blake's sung ad-libs are almost like echoes of RZA's thoughts, with the repeated phrase, here I am, Nogi, with what sounds like a rain on a windowsill, painting a picture of RZA rapping this while looking out a window on a rainy day. Mood is number 1 on this record, and this is a mood and a half. Now we come to easily one of the most commercially successful off the record, Retrograde. This is the go-to song during big performances, with the opening being just a piano and Blake's ethereal humming. Like, this man's humming can give Kid Cudi a run for his money. Moving from a soft-spoken piano lead piece to an impassioned lead vocal and synthesizer piece, with some of James Blake's best vocals to date. This song's message is much of the backbone to the video I'm making right now. This song is about James Blake's new relationship. With Teresa Wayman of Warpaint fame. But I'll explain more in a bit, so keep this in the back of your noodle. But this track is easily one of the most popular off the record, and it's not hard to see why. A very beautiful and sweet sounding future R&B piece that really puts James Blake on the map, more than he already was. Now we reach the track DLM. This is a shorter track with it only being about 2 minutes and change. This song is made up of essentially only 2 instruments, a twangy old parlor sounding piano, and James Blake's vocals. Quite a simplistic track, but quality over quantity here, because this is one of James Blake's best vocals on the record, with his vocals being clean and passionate in some parts, and him harmonizing with himself and making the bass out of his own voice in some creative genius, like a precursor to Bon Iver's 22 to a Million. This track kind of works as an interlude to me, and a perfect little rest stop in the album, as it was short, beautiful, and minimalist. And just like that, we're over halfway through this track list. Our next track, Digital Lion, gives me more Bon Iver 22 to a Million vibes, specifically the opening track to the record, with how Blake loops his vocals, replacing the usual synthesizer piece in the track and other background textures. And just as you think you can pin the man down, there's a silence of pulsing fast clicks exploding into more pulsating bass and digital percussion. This song is definitely a stranger one in the track list for sure, with it focusing heavy on instrumentals, and it carries the track quite well. I will say this may be one of the weaker songs in the track list, but this record is so good even the weaker songs are really awesome. But like Thomas the Tank Engine, we must continue chugging along. We arrive to the station, and the next song on our list, Voyeur, with the opening consisting of a bass-led instrumental, very slow hi-hats, and Blake's voice, but this track takes a turn, boy howdy, from a mellow song to almost a future bass found sound ballad, with incredible sound design, raising tension and spirits as the track goes on, making one last surprise transition into what sounds like a chill dance track, complete with hi-hats and these lead synth segments. This is the track from people I told I was listening to this record told me it was slept on, and I kinda agree. And speaking of sleep, we get to the lullaby-esque To The Last. This song is possibly the most calming and sonically interesting to my ears anyway, with strange pieces of percussion and this robotic sound at the end of every loop. If you listen to the song, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But even a bass line that should make this song incredibly dark gets transformed into this euphoric piece of music with Blake's heavenly vocals and beautiful playing of keys and synths. This probably permeates the last spot on my top 3 of the record, and with that, we come to the last song off the record, the final track, Our Love Comes Back. With the beat being this piano-led ballad littered with what sounds like this harsh electronic frequency that I cannot get enough of. The sound design here is fucking awesome, by the way. With lyrical themes of begging to rekindle an old romantic spark, this song is the perfect melancholy way to end a fantastic record. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Every Day I Ran. Remember when I mentioned James Blake's Sorta sample? Well, foreshadowing is one great storytelling element, don't you agree? This track is promoted as a bonus track where you can listen to it everywhere, except on vinyl record, which is kind of a shame because I really fucking love this song, and I don't know why they couldn't add this. I feel like that's kind of an easy transition, but I digress. This is a bonus song, so I almost don't count it as part of the record, but holy shit, the sound design here is phenomenal. James Blake, I don't even think is vocally on this track, which is probably why it's a bonus track, but it's a remix of a Big Boy and Andre 3000 song called Royal Flush, turning this old school hip hop song into a banging electronic ballad. The two tracks could not sound more different, and I fucking love it. The building of tension and sound here is fantastic, going from beautiful to eerie, with lush pads, chords, and hard-hitting hype drums. This is an electronic ballad for the ages, much like my favorite record of 2020, Sufjan Stevens' The Ascension. The sound work is on point here, and is probably my favorite James Blake song ever, but it is technically a bonus track, and if it's not on the vinyl, fuck it. So scratch it from the record books, but just know, this track is the true People's Champ. Fucking hell, what a producer, am I right? James Blake's mixture of classic dubstep with future R&B and hip-hop has created this combo that people can't help but get supersized when they order Overgrown. Whereas previous James Blake work was much more eerie and dark of an album, this album hasn't lost its edge, finding a brand new one, as a matter of fact, incorporating more cheery and lush instrumental. And again, foreshadowing is one hell of a drug, because it all comes together with James Blake finding love. It took him out of his shell from his self-titled, to this versatile utility player, ready to express the emotion necessary for the vibe of the track. And this goes hand in hand with my overreaching point and the title of the video. James Blake started off his career as a very melancholic and even dark artist, with this extending to his on-screen persona, being very shy and calculated with all the answers he'd give when asked in an interview. Almost robotic. But after James Blake found love, all bets are off. He could go in and out of melancholy and cheery, showing much more dimension to his character and musical stylings, as if a machine snapping out of his program by discovering the business of emotion, giving it ironically the name of the newfound sound, soul. With the record in front of me, Overgrown, we have found out once and for all that James Blake is human after all. Ah yes, the end of another classic Bucket of Jake video. The world famous dementia patient talks music. And what a music to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this video, because it's been sitting in my back pocket for quite some time now, and I'm glad to have finally gotten it out there. And to keep in mind, I'm just a James Blake novice, so I haven't dove too deep into his other records, mainly being The Color and Everything and Self-Titled eluding me. While I've listened to a couple songs off of each, this will indeed be a snapshot of my James Blake virginity. And now, my teacher told me if I wanted credit on the assignment, I need to cite my sources, with the two main faceless entities being Wikipedia and Genius for the lyric breakdown portions. But probably the one I implore you to check out the most is this video by the YouTuber Roger V, titled James Blake, Music's Best Kept Secret. This video, unlike mine, is a total career retrospective of the British gentleman. This video goes in just enough depth to leave you with a really good idea about who this artist is, but just enough ambiguity that you feel compelled to listen to the music. Link in the description. I will say this video marks a kind of slowdown in the videos I put out. You know, classes are starting again, and I'm gonna have to transition from multiple videos a month to maybe one a month, but it'll be the same quality as always, and maybe an extra video sprinkled here and there, who knows. But as a modern philosopher once said, life is crazy. But don't fret, if you miss seeing me, follow my Instagram and my Twitter. I tweet stupid shit sometimes, but mostly my Instagram. And if you miss hearing my stupid little voice, you can listen to me on not one, but two podcasts. That's right, 2 for the price of 1. Home of the Whopper, what's your beef? I have my Big Fish podcast that may or may not be slowing down, but I have a lot of content and hangouts on there. Give it a listen. And newcomer to the arena, the Good Enough podcast. Just 3 boys hanging out. Me, Luke on Demand, and Jackson Burns, heroes of YouTube, just kind of hang out and shoot the shit for an hour. It's a great vibey podcast, much like the Official Podcast or the Misfits Podcast, to name a few. So check it out. All links will be in the description. I have a feeling you're going to like it. New music coming soon. Superjail is inching ever so closer to being released, so get hyped and support James Blake. I'm going to guess there will be no shortage of ways to support him. He just released a covers EP, so listen to that. And do the classic rapper flex. Google him. And as long as you clear your samples before releasing your album, then you're good to go. So thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And have a pleasant day.